Yeah, and then I'll just go through the slides and we will see if you have any questions about the content. And we'll take it from there. Okay. Let me just quickly put this phone on silence. Okay, cool. So this is for SP5. So in SP5, we focus on human resource management, and the title says HRM, which is it is the title of the qualification, which is cool, but it doesn't solely or doesn't delve directly into HRM. Instead, it focuses on the development of holistic productivity improvement strategies and plans. And then it also talks about, managing, capturing, storage, and retrieval of information in the space of HR with information systems. So it's not directly aimed at HR, but it is very much a top-down look at HRM and these two very important components that exist in the space of human resource management. Okay. With that being said, we will delve into the first one, which is holistic productivity improvement. And you'll see that in holistic productivity improvement, I like to kickstart the section off with a quote. So this quote by George Paulo Leman says, "The greatest asset of of a company is its people." And this is a quote I've used before in other slides, and it's something we emphasize a lot in the HRM program, is the importance of people in businesses, in respective organizations, and just the fact that businesses don't exist without people and people don't exist without businesses. Okay. Um, yes, I see we have Ntombi that joined us. Welcome, Ntombi. How are you?
Morning. I'm good, thank you.
All good, all good. Okay, happy to have you. Okay. Let us go to the next slide. So you'll see that I wanted to focus on the key concepts, so why holism matters in the space of productivity. So remember that productivity is more than just increasing your outputs. It's about creating a balance in all areas in the organization. Because yes, you can change, you can alter the environment, you can alter factors, but you're not going to maintain it because people are complex. The business environment is very complicated, and there are multiple factors that drive and motivate achievement of goals within an organization. Um, and that's important. So when we talk about holism in productivity, it considers people, but it also considers processes, it considers technology, and it also considers culture. And it believes that all of these components need to come together, to find holistic productivity. Because productivity is not just the outputs, or the results. It's also how the people are dealing with it, how the culture is being adopted, how technology is being used to simplify or automate the process. Okay. The second point is that it focuses on sustainable productivity, not just quick fixes. And that's what I was saying a few seconds earlier, is that you can improve productivity for a day, but it doesn't mean that it's going to last 5 years or it's going to last 6 years. Things change. Things are very, very dynamic. And that's why holism is important. You're not looking for a quick fix. You're looking for a real long-term solution, and things that really help the team, help the organization, helps the HR team. Okay. And then the last point just says that it helps organizations respond to internal and external challenges. When we're talking about holism, it's thinking big picture, thinking large, thinking about every little component and how it works together. That's what holistic thinking is all about. So when we talk about internal and external challenges, it's not just what's within, but it's also what's without or what's outside of the organization. And that's holism. That's holistic productivity. It does matter. It matters more so than just looking at productivity on its own. Because if you just look at productivity on its own, you're looking at it from a very limited perspective. You're only looking at the figures. You're not digging deeper to see why the figures are the way that they are. You're not doing much in terms of, further investigation or delving deeper into real cause and effects. So it's very important that we look at productivity holistically. Okay, so I just want to take this a step further and talk about key areas for productivity improvement. So when you go to any organization, you'd have to look for key areas for improvement. It's not going to be the same from one organization to another. But every organization will have areas where they can improve. And there's no organization that's perfect. No matter how good they are, how efficient, how effective, there will be gaps in the procedures and the systems. It's just the way things are. It's the way the world is. But it's actually it would have to strongly associate with the fact that we're human beings and we make mistakes. Errors exist in the things we do. So yeah. So here are some points that you can focus on when you're looking for areas of improvement. So you can look at process efficiency. And a good way to do this is to just map things out, develop what is called the TBPM, a time-based process map, which is where you map out an entire process and you look for where time is being wasted. And you come up with visual mind mapping or visual mapping to see how you can cut out those time-wasting activities. Okay. And then the next big one would be technology integration. And this is happening a lot more lately. We're seeing a major integration of AI and those types of technology into the workplace because it is important. It is making things simpler, it's making things easier. Okay. And then we have workforce optimization. So ensuring that employees have the skills and motivation to perform at their best. And this is where HR comes into the mix. This is the biggest contribution that HR can make in the productivity improvement space is they can make sure that employees have the skills. They are motivated. They're happy to do what they need to do. And that's how they can, contribute to the upskilling. They can contribute to motivational drivers. That's how they can really contribute to ensuring that productivity is up there. And then you have organizational culture, so building a supportive, innovative driven culture that supports continuous improvement. That's very important. Is the culture needs to support all these factors. Culture needs to be supporting of people, processes, technology, and culture itself. It also needs to ensure that it's there driving innovation. Organizations are only going to be as innovative as they allow the employees to be, and then that's the cap they set on themselves and on the people they work at, the people that work at the organization. Okay, let us keep moving. So if you wanted to build a holistic productivity strategy, it's very important that when you're developing it involves more than just finding the quick fixes, as we've said. It requires a comprehensive approach where every step is planned. So it's going to require that the individual who's doing the planning is meticulous, that they're looking at the thing at a very top-down level, and they're making sure that there's a strong alignment between what they're trying to do and the organization's overarching goals. That is very important. A successful strategy addresses both the immediate and the long-term sustainability. So you need to look at what are the things that's going to ensure that we can pay our bills month to month, and what are the things that will ensure that we can keep operating in the next 5 years? What are the things that will ensure that we're developing or we're attaining some sort of profit that can contribute towards long-term sustainability? Okay. This was broken down into 4 steps. So step one says assess your current productivity levels and identify areas for improvement. So this would be basic if you're developing any kind of strategy, is identify the current state. What is our current position? What does it look like in its current form? And then step two would be to develop actionable strategies that target both short and long-term fixes. And again, this is emphasizing the importance of looking at both the short and the long-term periods. Okay, and when we say actionable strategies, it must be things you can do, which means you must think about time, you must think about budget, you must think about skills. Okay. Step three is all about ensuring alignment with the organization's broader mission and objectives. So making sure that whatever we do ties into what the organization wants to do. That is very important. Okay, there's no point in doing things that don't help in the attainment or achievement of the overall mission and objectives. Okay, then step four is all about implementing, monitoring, and adjusting strategies as necessary to meet evolving challenges. And this final step emphasizes the notion that things do not stay the same. Things do not remain stagnant. The world is very dynamic. Things are always moving, always changing. And that's why it's very important that you implement, but you monitor and adjust where needed. Because the things you've identified in your first step would have changed by the time you get to the process of implementation. And that is a key thing. That is critical. If you don't adjust or alter your approach to meet these different evolving challenges, you'll be solving a problem that has become bigger or that is null and void or no longer relevant. And that's important. Because you have to be, and you have to ensure that you're hitting the problem as best as possible. Like think about it as a dartboard. You want to try and hit the red circle in the middle. Okay, you don't want to hit the wall or anything else that's not really relevant. Okay, or at least minimum you want to try and get the board at least. Okay, let me move to the next slide. So when you create action plans, this would tie directly into your strategy, your holistic strategy that you've developed. So you go and you develop the holistic strategy for the organization. The next key step would be to actually go and build an action plan. And it's key that it's imperative that we focus on the word action. Okay, everything you put in this plan is there to ensure that there is implementation. Okay, you want to make sure that you're clearly defining the responsibilities, you're providing strict timelines, and you're providing the team with metrics to track the progress and success of the action plan. That is very important. So if we follow the steps or the key bullet points on the slide, you'll see that the first step would be to define the key actions, which involves the process of identifying the steps that need to be taken to implement the strategy. So you take your strategy and you break it down into several different steps that you can follow. Once you've broken it down, you start allocating responsibility. So you start assigning team members to each of the steps or each of the tasks that you've pulled out. And that means they're in charge of it from start to end. They need to make sure that they pull their weight and they do the thing they need to do. It's also very important to note that when you're assigning responsibilities, you look for people that are best equipped with the skills to deal with the tasks that you've allocated. Okay, then you set timelines, so you need to provide people timelines. If you don't give timelines, it will continue forever, or they'll just never do it. So if you give them a deadline, they will get it done, because they now feel the pressure to do so. Okay. Then you want to use KPIs, so key performance indicators, to track the success and adjust the plan. So if your KPIs are indicating that you're on target, you're doing well, then it's good. Don't worry about it too much after that. Then you've done what you needed to do. Okay. If the KPIs are showing that the team is behind or slacking, then you apply the pressure, or you go to your plan and you see where you can make alterations to make it easier for the team. Okay. Let's keep moving. Okay, I just wanted to also demonstrate some cool models that you can consider in the process of doing your holistic planning and your holistic actioning. So if you think about the PDCA model or cycle, it's one that uses continuous improvement, to support the model. And it basically says when you do anything in the space of change, or you want to do anything in the organization, what you need to do is follow the PCDA model. So it says plan, which means you identify your problems, so you test potential solutions, then you check, so you study the results you got, and then you act according, to what you found, and you implement the best solution. This is a nice way. It's linked very much to probing and then actioning. But it works. You can tie this in. You can take these components and you can plug them in to the steps we've provided in this slide. So you can take what they've provided there and link it to this, and it will work perfectly well. Okay. It's very important to note that when you follow the PCDA model, you will obviously go through planning, so you develop strategies for productivity improvement. When you're doing it, you start implementing those strategies in a controlled manner. When you're checking them, you're monitoring results and comparing them to adjust key performance indicators. And then when you act, you're adjusting strategies based on the evaluation of the plan and the next cycle of improvement. So remember that your organization is going to go through cycles of improvement. They're not going to, they'll do improvements and they'll come back and review it again. If you're not reviewing continuously, then it's not gonna, you're gonna fall behind trends. You're gonna fall off. And that's a problem. So continuous improvement needs to happen regardless. And you'll see that what they've done is they've adjusted the PCDA model, or the PDCA model, sorry. Yeah, so you'll see that you can adjust the checking and the planning. It all depends on what you want to do. So if you want to plan and then check, or if you want to plan and then do and then check, you're welcome to adjust it. As long as your plan and act stay in the same steps, you can switch the bottom two ones around. And remember, these models are there to provide you with an idea in terms of how you can start, how you can do the process. You're welcome to alter the models so that they best fit your needs and your organization's needs. Okay. I do have some other models I'd like to show you. Let me just go. So the next one is all about lean thinking or lean management principles. And this focuses on maximizing value while minimizing waste. And this is an idea or thought that was made popular by the Japanese. To be specific, I believe it was Toyota that was looking to capitalize on value and cut off the waste. And when you think about lean management principles, all we're trying to do is cut off that excess fat that is, taking more time, costing us money, costing us skills, labor, any of those things you want to eliminate and make sure you're focusing on the key thing that drives up profits. Okay, so the five principles of lean include value, value stream, flow, pull, and perfection. And what it does is it guides organizations to focus on exactly what adds value, and it guides them away from anything that would eliminate that value. Okay, so when you look at the first point, it says define what is valuable for the customer's perspective, so from the customer's perspective. So what would the customer see as valuable to their experience or the product they're getting? Okay, then you can see that we have our value stream, and this is where you map the steps that deliver the value and identify the areas of wastage. So if you remember right in the beginning, I spoke about time-based process mapping your TBP, wait, it's time-based process mapping. So it's TBPM. If you did that, that would be exactly the same as developing a value stream because you're literally looking at a process from a top-down perspective. You're identifying what is time saving or what is critical to the product or the service you're delivering and what is wasteful of the time or the product or the labor, whatever the resources that you're putting in. Okay. And then the third principle is flow, so that it ensures that the processes run smoothly and continuously. So if you're doing lean management principles, you want to make sure that processes literally flow in a smooth manner. You want to make sure that when when you're running the process, there isn't going to be a hiccup or delay. There isn't waiting for one individual to get things done. You want to make sure that things just continuously move, regardless of whether that individual is there or not. As soon as your system or your process becomes dependent on one person, it's broken. It's not going to work because anything could happen to that individual, and then you have to now come up with a quick plan or quick solution to resolve that. Okay. And then the next key principle is pull. So it's making sure that the production is driven by customer demand. So what does the customer want? What does the customer need? And that's what you want to extract from the system. That's what you want to extract from your production process. Okay, and I'm not just talking about factories or manufacturing lines. I'm talking about even in service. This customer demands exist there. There are processes that run anywhere. So it is relevant. It does work. And then the final point is perfection, and it's just there, and it emphasizes the point that we need to continuously improve. Never rest on your laurels. Keep working, keep striving for excellence. That is what it's about. Okay. Never think that what you have is enough. There will always be something else you can do, something you can add to the product, something you can do that will further enhance what you're providing to your customers. Okay. I have these principles put on a figure, on a diagram. So just the first one says define value. The second one is to map out your value stream. The third one is to create that flow. The fourth is to establish pull. And the fifth is obviously in pursuit of perfection, which is a nice ribbon on all of it. Okay. With that being said, I'm going to go to the next model I have for you. And this is the 7S's model. Okay. It's a model that includes, or it says that strategy, structure, systems are all interlinked. And in the middle, you have your shared skills, or sorry, your shared values. And these are things that we adopt and we all care about within an organization. And then you have skills, staff, and style. So if I go to the next slide, we'll give you a bit more of an explanation of the model. So it just says that it's a framework for organizational effectiveness, and it says considering the 7 elements that need to be aligned to improve performance. So the model is all about ensuring that there's alignment between all of these principles to drive up productivity. Okay, it is very important to note that these things include so this is already covered, so I'm not going to give that again. It just ensures that productivity improvement plans take the holistic view of the organization. So when we look at the components individually, Okay, we look at strategy, for example. Strategy is to plan to improve the productivity. Structure is how the organization is structured to support the plan. So, are we in a space where improvement in productivity is being driven or sought? Do our structures at the organization support this, or do they not? If it doesn't, then we need to adjust the structure within the organization. Okay, the next is systems. So processes and tools are in place to drive our productivity. So do the teams have what they need to do what they need to do, or are they lacking in resources? These are things that need to be considered. Okay, then shared values. So is the organizational culture and values aligned with the productivity goals? If it's not, then you need to either adjust the goals or adjust the values and culture to make sure that there's stronger alignment. Okay, then we have styles. So leadership and management approach. Are your leaders and managers at the organization supportive of productivity improvement, or are they pushing against it? Okay, everyone in leadership and management needs to be on the same page for it to work. Then we have staff. So this is your workforce and talent management. Have we been able to get buy-in from the team members on the ground, from the staff members who are doing the work? Do they believe in the idea, the vision, or are they against it? Okay. If they're against it, it means your organization is going to struggle to meet or reach that peak performance position. Okay, then we have skills. So does workforce have the capability or the ability to execute the strategy? And that's very important. So everyone needs to have the ability and capability to implement what you're planning to do. Okay, so that we'll put a ribbon on the models. Um, so I just want to conclude this section because this is the first section. There's only two sections in the skills program. It's very important that we develop holistic productivity improvement strategies, and that could be anything. This is just, what I touched today barely touches the surface of what there really is. But you want to make sure that when you're building your holistic productivity improvement strategy, you're thinking about people, you're thinking about process, you're thinking about tech and culture. And you want to try and create a balanced approach that both meets the short-term needs and the long-term success of the organization. Okay, you need to remember that improvement is not something you do for one day and forget about it. It is an ongoing journey. And it does require that there is regular monitoring, evaluation, and commitment from everyone in the organization to this improvement, to the culture of improvement. And it's very important that you have that there so that an organization can remain agile, competitive, and ever evolving, within the landscape of the industry it operates in. Okay. So it's important to note holistic productivity is not just about doing more, but it's about doing better together. Okay. So this will bring us to the next unit standard. I just want to check if we have any questions. Are we all good so far?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, thanks, Komoto.
I'm also good. Thank you.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So this brings us to 5.2, and you'll see that there's only 2 unit standards. So today's session will probably not be as long as the other ones. But 5.2 is all about managing the process of capturing, storage, and retrieval of HR information using information systems. So it's all about data collection. And if we look at this quote from Carly Forena, it just says that the goal is to turn data into information and information into insight. So it's taking the data that exists in the HR space and using it to actually plan and action accordingly within an organization. Okay. It's very important to note that managing human resource information is critical to smooth operations, and the data must be accurately captured and securely stored. It must also be easily retrievable so that you can make decisions and ensure that the organization remains compliant. And it's very important to note that HRM information contributes to daily operations running smoothly. Okay, without it, the organization would struggle because there's a continuous need for some of these information or some of these bits of information. An effective HRM system streamlines these processes and also reduces the errors and allows for easy access to the essential data by the parties who actually need the access to the data. Okay, let's go look at source of information. So what it did is I found this HRM process flow map. And what I wanted to show you is that every step of the way, you'll see that there's a data point or there's several data points. So if we look at identifying your talents, for example, there are going to be criteria that you have or criterion that you have for that talent. And then you'll measure people according to that. That's all data. Okay. Then you have people. You build profiles on the people in the organization. So you'll have their CVs, you'll have their educational background, you'll have their skills, their competencies, their capabilities. All of that is data. Okay. When we look at organizational capabilities, so this is, what is the organization capable of doing? And you'll have their mission, vision, and values that tie into that. This is all information, which is all data. Okay. There's a big difference between this data and this data. Okay, and the key, even this data. So the key difference is that this would be less confidential. You can provide this openly. This would be more confidential. So people's personal information, their documents and stuff, that shouldn't be readily or openly available to everyone. Okay, while your company's mission, vision, and values you can share with anyone because it is something that is presented, like upfront and up close. Okay. Then if you diagnose, you do a gap analysis, there's data that is extracted from that. That whole process just generates data. Okay, you develop a strategy. It could be a holistic strategy. Um, that strategy will have data points in it too, and it will have key data bits, informative bits of data that will tell you how to action or what to do. Okay. Then even if you develop scorecards, the measures or metrics that are used on that scorecard as data points, and when those scorecards are completed, that's data. Okay. Anything in the organization, because this does have to link to organizations. The organization is built of data. It just exists because of data. Okay. HR processes literally run and it will take and it will develop data and it will even take existing data and enhance it. It will, clean it up. That's literally all it does. And then also your HR functions, capabilities, and even transformation. All of these things has data that forms a key part of it. Okay, so if you just look at your flow, or your HR process flow, you'll see that there's data points at every step of the way. Okay. So sorry guys, Bills. Okay. So when we look at the steps of managing information accurately in an HR context, we need to first look at capturing the information, how the data is captured. Okay. And in the HR space, this would include employee records. It could include payroll details. It could include performance reviews. It includes many, many different types of data. Okay. And you need to make sure as an HRM or an HR manager that from the start things are collected correctly so that there isn't the additional costs that are incurred. Okay. Can I just ask, are we hearing any background laughter?
No.
Not
Okay. Okay, cool. It's very noisy where I'm sitting. But yeah, I'm glad you're not picking it up. Yeah, cool. I'm gonna keep going then. So HR systems are there to automate many of the data entry processes. And what this does is it reduces human error. So anytime a human has to collect data manually, you're opening yourself to the opportunity, for error in that data collection process. Okay. When we look at the points below, it just says types of HR data that's captured. So it could include your employee details, your leave records, payroll, performance, any of that. It's also very important that the data is as accurate as possible. So if you're collecting payroll, make sure that it's correct. These things need to be checked and confirmed. And then there are also many benefits, from automation. So you can gather key insights that computers or softwares can provide as a result of automation. Sometimes doing it manually can slow you down, and you also limit the type of information you can extract from it. Okay. When you then have collected it, you need to think about storing it. And storage of HR is essential because what we're trying to do is protect employee information. You're trying to make sure that the data is organized and stored in a way that ensures that it's easily accessible while also adhering to data protection regulations. So using HR information systems would allow organizations to centralize their storage, and it will also make it easier for them to retrieve the important information. Additionally, it would allow them to regularly update these informations, and also they can ensure that they have the latest tech, or they're taking advantage of technological advancements and security standards. So you'll see that the protection of information is going to be a very important component of this unit standard. And you'll see that we'll talk about storing sensitive data while also complying with data collection protection laws, so PAPIA in the South African context. Okay. And when we centralize our system, we can really control who's getting access to it and who's not. So obviously, personal information should not be accessed by all employees. Just key employees that need that information, the rest of the organization does not need to know. And it is also not something that should be discussed within the work context or the work environment. So policies need to be in place to support these protective measures. Okay. And then when we talk about retrieving the information, so efficient data retrieval is vital for quick decision making. So imagine you're about to make a major strategic decision, and you need to just see to ensure that you have the correct resources. And by that, I'm referring to skills within your team. You can literally go to your HRIS, your HR information system, and you can go and look at what skills you have within your departments and where you can strategically place the team members so that you can get the most out of them when you implement your strategy. Okay. It's important to note that these platforms often include search functions, reporting tools that help streamline the process and ensure that data is available when needed. And then also the ability to retrieve data in real time helps organizations make informed decisions and maintain operational efficiency. It's important. So if you're looking for any key information, you can just go search for it as opposed to looking through documents manually or going through file cabinets trying to find what you need. Those things make life a lot easier. Okay. So it is important because it gives you real-time data, which you can use for decision making. The use of HRIS tools would be beneficial because you can generate reports on the fly, and you search for things that you need. And then also it helps with the retrieval of supporting compliance and performance management documents. Okay, these things could come in really helpful, your HRIS, your HR information systems, when you deal with problems. Like, for example, if an employee is taking your organization to CCMA or any of those situations where you need proof that you followed procedure, that things are in order, that there is a system. All of these things just help further support your argument in those situations. So that's why it's important also. It helps you ensure that you're compliant and that you're not violating any laws or legislation that's been set in place. Okay. Let me keep going. Okay, then also the next step would be ensuring that your data is accurate and the integrity of the data is there. So integrity of the data means that you can trust it, that it's reliable. Okay, and this is crucial when capturing and storing the data, even when retrieving it. So inaccurate or outdated data can lead to significant issues. So imagine if you don't have staff members' correct documents, or you have an outdated bank letter, or just information that's not correct. So it just means that there'll be delays in the system. It means that things will take longer. People won't get paid. Things don't flow the way they really should. And if we go back to our lean processes, one of the key things we spoke about was ensuring that processes run smoothly and continuously. So if we take that concept and we carry it forward to this part where we're looking at data accuracy and integrity, it's important to note that the data needs to be updated. You need to try and minimize inconsistencies as much as possible. And what you want to ensure that you want to ensure that there's auditable trails, that you can track changes over time. Okay. So it's also important to note that in the space of HRM or HR information collection, the data is going to change. It's not going to stay the same. People grow, they upskill themselves. Every time an employee gets a certificate, that must be added. Every time they get an increase, there must be an alteration. Anytime they do key performance indicators, that must be measured, documented, recorded. All of this continuous. It will never end. There'll never be a year that passes where you're not altering or updating information for staff members. And if you're not making the updates on almost I want to say a quarterly basis, you're not going to have an auditable trail. So if anyone comes in and they do their checks, they'll notice that there's a lot of gaps. Things are leaping, and that doesn't make sense. Okay, and then also, if you have accurate information and the information has integrity, so it's good, you can trust it, it will further enhance the automated systems and also the real-time updates. Okay. And then also it will help you find errors quickly. If there's an error in one part of the system, you can really focus in on that. If there are problems in 6 or 7 different areas in the system, that's going to be a lot more tricky, a lot more challenging to deal with because the system information is interlinked. So one thing will affect another. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're maintaining audit trails, for data transparency so that people can see what's happening with the data, and that you can show them that it is being protected, and that it does have that integrity that we've spoken about. Okay. Then you need to think about legal and ethical considerations. So we've spoken about this before. So it's very important to note that your data is not just about efficiency, but it's also about compliance. And we've literally delegated a whole slide to just this. You need to ensure that sensitive employee information is handled ethically. If you leave things lying around, it's highly unprofessional and it can get you into trouble because we have things such as protection of personal information. So organizations must take steps to protect the personal information and avoid data breaches. Okay, one of the key things we do to avoid data breaches is we have our software securities, so things that will protect you from online threats. And then also you ensure that you have locked rooms, you have filing cabinets, you have things such as that can allow you to really protect the data, even if it's printed physically. If you're not cautious, if you're allowing things to be the process of data protection to be lackluster, you stand the chance or you are at risk of facing penalties, and it could be financial penalties or not, and also you could damage reputation. If you become known as an organization that is reckless with data and people's personal information, that will tarnish your brand, your reputation. So that needs to be avoided. Okay. Then when we look at the laws, it's just up here. We've spoken about this a few times already. And then we just want to focus on how to ethically handle sensitive information. Okay, so just a quick question to the ladies here today. How long do you think data should be kept for on an average?
Shouldn't it be kept like forever?
No.
I'm not sure, because if you are employed with that company, obviously the data will be kept even if you leave the company, just in case maybe another company wants some references, or they need to, maybe they're investigating you, or for whatever reason, then as the previous company that the person was working for, you should have the data of that particular person.
Okay, that's great. You didn't really answer the question, but you answered a version of it. Yeah, that's cool. Let me hear from Ntombi.
I think it should never be deleted. So I think it should be kept forever.
That is going to be very costly. Okay. Because data, if you put it on a cloud, it costs money to put it there. If you keep it on a device, it's risky. So I wouldn't recommend keeping it forever. Okay, the rule of thumb is to keep data for an average of 5 years, and then it needs to be deleted and like properly removed. Okay. And if you
So,
have,
sorry,
yeah,
can I ask something, Carl?
yeah,
Then if it happens like my mom was working in this other particular company, she got not retrenched, she left the company about, I think maybe 10 years ago. So
okay.
are you saying the information is not there anymore about her?
There's a great chance it's not there anymore. Okay. Because remember, every year you should be updating your profiles for the employees there. So you have all that info for the people who are there, and you'll have for a 5 year duration. But at some point, it becomes irrelevant to keep data that's 10 years old. When are you ever going to go back to that? Do you think, Ntombi, that that company will ever need that information for your mom?
I think as Komuto was saying, maybe there's a company that's asking something or there's a legal issue that just came up that they
Okay,
need to verify something.
you need to remember that there are statutes of limitations, legally speaking. So, for example, if you go and look at the law, and this is going to be quite a rough one, and it's not the best example I can come up with, but if you look at, I don't like this example. I don't want to use it, but I'm going to use it anyway. If you if you look at sexual misconduct or even some of the sexual assault legislation, um, and they have statutes of limitations. So if you don't report the case in a 5 year period, you can no longer report it. I don't know if South Africa has those kind of limitations on the legislation, but I know in the states, in some of those states, you if you've been, for example, some of the women they've been sexually assaulted or even raped, and because it's been more than 5 years, they can no longer go and report it. So that often applies in many cases. And then there are also legislations that say that there are limitations in terms of time. So how much time can you wait before you do a certain type of investigation? Okay, so that would come to the fore. So if there's a legal issue, it would be null and void if it's been 10 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I get what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about the example. It's not the best one, but it's the most it's that's how I learned about that law. I learned that there's a statute of they call it a statute of limitation, which means that if a certain amount of time has passed, the person who would be the victim can no longer go and open a case or lay charges. Um, and that the same thing would apply to what you're talking about. So if there's a legal issue and they need your mom's records, they're not gonna. It's 10 years. It's how much can you trust the information that was provided 10 years ago? Okay, that needs to be considered. How valid is it in the modern world? Okay, cool. With that being said, let us move on. We don't have too much more to do. Let me just see. Yeah, so we're quite close to the end. Um, okay, so let's go to the next one. So you want to choose the system that works best for your organization. There are many, many different softwares and different tools you can use for HRIS, so HR information systems. But what you need to consider is the system capabilities, scalability. So how big does it need to get? Is it going to be for a small organization or for a big one? And then also you'd have to consider integration. So how well is it going to integrate into existing systems? Do you have to change the existing procedures or protocols, or is it perfectly fine the way it is? And then you need to ensure that there's proper implementation. Staff members need to be trained on how to use the system, and this would all be essential to maximizing benefits. So there's no point in having an HR system that is only used by the HR team. Okay, the system should be for all staff members. They should be allowed to update their own information on there. They should have that sort of freedom and liberty to do so. It doesn't have to be solely dependent on the HR team to manage the system, because the system should be for everyone with restrictions and limitations. So factors to consider when looking for a system would be functionality, scalability, and integration. And then also it's very important that training happens for staff members to understand how to use the system. That training would primarily be for the HR team, but there will be some minor training for other staff members who need to know how to do things. And then it also needs to be customizable to meet specific HR needs. So not all organizations have the same HR needs, so it has to be dynamic enough to be, to be adjusted or amended to meet different or unique needs in the HR space. Okay. Then it's very important that you ensure that the results when managing HR data, so when you manage HR data, you want to make sure that it's organized, that it's optimized, and that anything that's not needed is kind of removed or dealt with in a manner that's ethically correct. And what you want to do is you want to just make sure that the stuff that needs to be there is there, the stuff that doesn't need to be there is removed. Okay. And this will help in the process of, going through audits. It will also ensure that sensitive information is protected correctly. And then that the features on your HR system provide you with, the reporting features and stuff give you information that you can actually use. Okay, so it would ensure that data audits are there and they maintain accuracy. It also allows for better access control for sensitive information, and it also allows the organization to leverage analytics to support their decision making. Okay, so what I did also is I was trying to develop an HR cycle, and I came up with this mind map. And this is something I developed myself, so that you could see it. So you'll see that it's an HR information lifecycle. So the data gets captured, and you'll see that there are data entry methods. There's also the importance of accuracy that we've spoken about a lot. I was going to add descriptions, but then I felt like it was just too much. It made it too big, so I removed those. But there are many things that happen at the capturing stage. It's just where you input the data. You need to take your time capturing data. It shouldn't be done in a rush, because if you don't do it wrong, it will lead to a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes. Okay, then you need to maintain the data collection. So maintenance is important. So there'd be data management practices that you introduce, and then you also need to do regular audits. The audits could be done internally. They can also be done by external parties. Obviously, the external parties would be best to eliminate any bias or influence, but it needs to happen. And then you need to be able to analyze the data, which you'd use some sort of reporting tools, and you can use it for predictive analytics. So you can use it for your forecasting, foreshadowing. That is very important. And then you have your distribution. So you need to make sure that there are communication channels. So communication channels between HR and the employees. And then also that there are feedback mechanisms in place. So if an employee is missing something, you can, that communication channel is open. You can go ask them to put it on the system and so forth, manage the information lifecycle. Okay, it's also important to note that we must have that period of, I want to say cleaning. So you remove old data and make sure that you maintain new data. Okay, let us keep going. I think this is the last slide I have for this. Before I wrap up. So it's very important to note that your HR information systems are vital for organization success. And if you use them properly, it can help you to accurately capture data, store it securely, and also retrieve it efficiently. Organization can also help with your decision making. It can ensure compliance, and it can ensure that you're protecting sensitive employee information. Just remember that well-chosen HR systems and adherence to best practices are key to unlocking the full potential of HR operations. Okay, that basically brings us to the end of the discussion around these 2 unit standards. As I said before, there is only 2 unit standards in this skills program, which means it's a lot shorter than the other ones. It should be a lot easier. So that would be the end of that, our session today. Do we have any questions? Are we all good?
No, I'm good, Carl. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Komotso. Ntombi?
I'm also good. Thank you, Carl.
Okay, great stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'll let you know the work should be released between today and tomorrow. So give us until close of business tomorrow for the release of the work. I just need to check it before we put it on the system to make sure it's okay. And then the due date will be provided on there. Okay. So you'll have your due dates and all of that should be set. Okay.
Okay.
With that being said, I'm going to end the session off there. It was a nice short 1 hour session. And then if you have any other questions, any other queries, you can always just drop me an email and we will try and sort it out.
Okay, Carl, before you go, I need to ask you something.
Okay.
I don't get any emails like this one. I was like, your Komutso sent it to me this morning. I don't get.
You don't get emails?
Mm-mm.
Okay, let's have a look quickly.